Welcome to the Astrotherapy podcast. I am your host, Ciela Winter, and I am thrilled to dive deep into the inner realms of provocative thought while discovering an array of astrological and psychological insights to accompany us on this quest of self-inquiry. Hi there. Wow, it's great to be back in the land of the living. Well, one can only take so much Vipassana, death to ego, before needing to resurrect and continue to explore life on this plane. And I think that's probably because we each have a tolerance, and 10 days is plenty. Now I get to live and experience myself and life to the utmost until I feel called back into that deep cocoon to begin to unravel it all again. But hopefully next time going back, things will be different, as they always are, and progress will have been made if I'm able to maintain my awareness and my inner work practice. So it's good to be back, and the conversation I want to have with you today is around riding the waves. And my question for you is, how do you surf the vicissitudes of life? For me, I was only an ocean surfer for about 5 years of my life in my early 20s. And I thought that because I had been raised on a snowboard, that there would be this natural translation of my ability from snow to waves. I was wrong. I didn't realize how accustomed I had become to being strapped onto my board and knowing that earth would catch me regardless of where I was jumping from. Surfing waves was a completely new frontier, one of fluidity and the unknown. Both mediums were a bit relentless on my body, I'll say though, which was pretty malleable at the time. I mean, I can't count how many trees I've wrapped myself around going warp speeds through powdery terrain. And thankfully, I can count how many times I've almost drowned at sea, just once, which is plenty. However, both snowboarding and surfing have taught me so much about myself and how I navigate life, and I am incredibly thankful for the imperative lessons that nature has offered me through them, and I want to share some of those with you now. So the first lesson is courage. Whenever I try something new that is outside of my comfort zone, I notice a surge of energy arise. And at the start, this energy is 3 parts uncomfortable and 1 part exhilarating. Over time, and as I grasp what I'm learning, the discomfort begins to wane and the exhilaration increases. Historically, I've not been one to pause and overthink before doing anything that scares me. For better or worse, I guess. But honestly, I think it is for the better because I've not let fear get in the way of my decision making, especially when my heart knows the way. And surfing still brings up fear, but the sweetness generally overrides it. There's so much unknown for a novice like me, and I feel this simply as a human being, waking up each day to meet the next set of waves. It can take an immense amount of courage to do this with integrity and grace, and I'm thankful to feel more steady as a surfer of life than I am on the board somehow. So the second lesson is practice. Excelling at anything takes practice, and that just takes time. In high school, I was on the snowboard team and was fortunate to leave by around 1 p.m. every day with my teammates and to hit the mountain resort until about 4, get back in the car, and then drive to the smaller town hill for night riding and gates until dinner time or around 7 p.m. Luckily, I lived on that mountain and could walk home even if it was 20 degrees below zero, which it typically was. And it was night. It was freezing. But we did it and we had a blast. It was a blessed and rigorous upbringing, full of discipline and punk rock. Plenty of that. I was never as dedicated to surfing in the same way, which is why I never excelled at it. Practice, practice, practice. As mentioned, having just come out of 10 days of Vipassana meditation, I am appreciating practice in a whole new light, and still am thankful to my roots as an athlete for instilling this into my DNA. I'm observing the places where I want to put on the brakes, take 5, or distract myself from being present. And what a waste of life, avoiding presence. Honestly, staying present, especially through the difficult moments, is perhaps the most rich experience I could have. Not easy, but so deeply gratifying to have endured and embodied presence during times of challenge. This takes practice, and practice rewards 10x, no doubt. The third lesson, integrate. There is a moment when my body comes into knowing after a dedicated time of practice. I no longer have to think about what I'm doing, and my mind and body become complete allies. When this happens, I can achieve a new level of mastery if I so choose, because the basics are handled and my awareness can go to the next level. Whether this is surfing, while simply meditating, or walking through the city, I love this part. There's a glimpse of freedom here, where I am no longer shackled to the tedium and minutia of getting a technique right. You may not think that there's a technique to walking through the streets of New York, but there is. You should see how people navigate these sidewalks, like freeways. It's amazing. Anyway, I feel this freedom, and instead I can slide through like a velvet sunrise and sparkle my way into new sensations and understanding. And integration is so often overlooked and undervalued, especially in today's experience addictive society, always wanting more, and more of something different, bigger, and more again, etc. I've fallen into this trap plenty, especially when chasing illusions through the realm of psychedelics. And trust me, I am a friend of psychedelics as a means of healing and growth, and I'm also witnessing the tsunami wave of abuses in this area, mainly because of a lack of integration of what has been learned previously before jumping into whatever the next may be. Thus, integration is key. It is the building block of life. The fourth lesson, live. I no longer ride, and although I have gotten out to surf here and there since that window of time, I truly enjoy just meditating outside of the break and communing with the birds and the dolphins above all. The adrenaline I used to seek by pounding down steeps is no longer a joy that nourishes me in the same way. Well, who doesn't love a powder day though? Now, I'd much rather move slower and take in every detail at a different pace and plane. My yoga practice has also changed in the same way over the years. When I used to arrange my day for what we called the Eye of the Tiger practice, which was 3 hours long, now I can stretch for 20 minutes and just go as deep. There is something to be said of refinement and the inner alchemy that can occur when presence is accounted for. Presence is something I have worked for, and for me, it is a combination of courage, practice, and integration. Regardless of what vicissitudes arise, I have learned to surf the waves of life from a place of being. Being, a synonym for presence, is also a state from which I aspire to live always. There is an energy in being that is unique and only possible to experience from within it. One of the biggest gifts I have received in the past 10 days is that when you show up for the work shows up for you. I could not do this without my being. So today, I am feeling so many things, and one of them is thankful. So all of my best to you, and please receive the peace of my heart that lives inside these words.